Hi, this is Remembering the Past, the show where we talk about people who've died recently who've had a profound effect on our history, our society, or our culture. Tonight we're going to start out with a one-hit wonder, Joe Ruggiero, aka Joey Powers, who died recently at the age of 82. Interesting story. He had a top 10 hit in early 1964, right before the Beatles broke the charts with I Want to Hold Your Hand, and it's a great song. He was a nice Italian boy born in Washington, Pennsylvania. That's close to Pittsburgh in southwestern Pennsylvania, and it's also pretty close to where Perry Como and Bobby Vinton grew up. And he took a song that was originally written for the Everly Brothers that they turned down. It was pushed by Paul Simon when he was using his stage name Jerry Landis. Paul Simon and Roger McGuinn may have played guitar on it. When the song started moving up the charts, he got McGuinn and Simon to help him record an album, which is what they used to do in those days. And unfortunately, the only studio time they had for the album was the weekend of November 22nd, 1963. And for those of you too young to remember, that was the weekend of the JFK assassination. So it didn't turn out that well. But the song continued to move up the charts, and in January of 1964, it was one of the top songs in the country. So Joey Powers was a one-hit wonder, but his one hit was an awfully good song. It was Meet Me at Midnight, Mary.
Meet me at midnight, Mary. Same place we always go. Meet me at midnight, Mary. And don't let anyone know. Don't let anyone know. Don't let anyone know.
That's what music sounded like right before the Beatles came to America. Right around that time, Paul Simon gave up the name Jerry Landis, went back to Paul Simon, and he and Art Garfunkel got a contract from Clive Davis at Columbia Records. Well, we're going to move on now to a couple of TV personalities. The first is Dick Gautier, who died recently at the age of 85. He had a one-hit rock career of sorts. He played Conrad Birdie in the original Broadway production of Bye Bye Birdie. So he sort of did his turn as Elvis. He actually started out as a stand-up comedian. He was one of the first guys booked at the Hungry i in San Francisco along with Mort Sahl in the 50s. And he had a couple of short-lived TV series, including a series called Mr. Terrific in the 1960s, and When Things Were Rotten, which was a Robin Hood parody by Mel Brooks in the 1970s. But he's best known for his guest appearances on Get Smart with Don Adams as Hymie the Robot, who took everything literally. And he was really a funny guy on Get Smart.
Incredible. So real, so lifelike. Thank you. You're welcome.
He saved our lives, Chief. And without him, Dr. Shotwire would have been taken by chaos.
We owe you a great debt. Is there anything we can do for you in return?
Would you like to join control?
No, thank you.
No?
I just don't like violence.
What would you like to do?
I'd like to work for IBM.
Oh, because of your scientific curiosity.
No, it's a nice way to meet some intelligent machines.
As Hymie the Robot,
Lonesome?
Dick Gautier provided the show with a sense of family.
Who are you lonesome for?
For my friends at the office.
What friends?
Shirley the intercom, Sid the coffee machine, Trudy the noiseless typewriter, Rex the elevator.
There wasn't a lot of warmth or relationships in the show. Between Don and Hymie, there was some warmth.
We used to make each other laugh a lot because it was so ridiculous to have a robot as your friend.
I always thought you liked me, Max.
I do like you, Hymie. You're my best friend. I'm crazy about you.
He felt sorry for me, and I liked him because he treated me like a person.
Cute.
You say it, but you don't really mean it.
I do mean it.
Don't yell.
A lot of people identify me with the show and think, man, you were there every week. You're a regular, but I really wasn't. I only did 6 shows over a 5-year period. And when I was there, I really enjoyed it.
He did a great job on the show. He's one of the most memorable characters. And as I said, he took everything literally as Hymie the Robot.
Now I want you to take these reports and start filing them in your memory bank.
Yes, Max.
Chief, when are they going to let us know who the new man is?
That must be it.
What in the world is that, Chief?
This is our horn phone.
You mean this is coming right from the White House?
Hymie, will you knock that stuff off?
Hymie, the chief didn't mean that. He meant just to be quiet while he's on the horn phone to the White House.
I'm sorry, Max.
We're going to move on now to another pretty well-known television actor, Miguel Ferrer, who died recently at the age of 61. Pretty impressive pedigree for Miguel Ferrer. He was the oldest son of Rosemary Clooney and Jose Ferrer. He was born in 1955, and in fact, the year before he was born, 1954, his parents were the stars in the two top-grossing films of the year. Rosemary Clooney was the star of White Christmas, which was the top grosser, and Jose Ferrer was one of the stars of The Caine Mutiny, which came in second. They later went on to have a pretty stormy marriage, but that's a story for another day. Miguel Ferrer is also, by the way, the cousin of George Clooney. When he was a kid, he originally started out as a musician. His father played piano, and his mother, of course, was one of the great singers of the 20th century. Played in a rock band with Billy Mummy, the kid who was always on The Twilight Zone, but then he gradually gravitated towards acting. He's best known for playing Owen Granger, the star of NCIS Los Angeles. Here's a report on Miguel Ferrer.
NCIS LA and Crossing Jordan star Miguel Ferrer has died. He was 61. Miguel spent nearly 40 years in the business, making his mark on some iconic shows.
I performed the autopsy on Jacques Renault. Stomach contents revealed, let's see, beer cans, a Maryland license plate, half a bicycle tire, a goat, and a small wooden puppet. Goes by the name of Pinocchio.
You're making a joke.
Jordan, I can't talk right now.
What you need to know, we got new evidence.
Whatever it is, I'll handle it in the morning. I really can't talk.
Thank you, Assistant Director.
All my friends call me Granger.
Does that mean we're going to be friends?
We'll call you when we need you.
He specialized in playing these dour characters. Here he is with Linda Hunt, who's one of my favorite actresses, in an episode of NCIS Los Angeles.
Look, you knew this day was coming.
What's the official word?
Administratively pending a full investigation.
Effective?
Immediately.
Of course. Of course.
I'm sorry.
Spare me your platitudes, Owen. You may need them yourself.
Somebody in Washington is stirring this up. It's a witch hunt.
Yes. And unfortunately, I'm the one left holding the broom.
Yeah, Miguel Ferrer was a good actor. By most of the accounts I've read, he was a pretty good guy as well. Well, we're going to move on to our feature now. Roberta Peterman, a.k.a. Roberta Peters, who died recently at the age of 86. And you know, if I'm featuring an opera star, she had to be good. And Roberta Peters was a legend. She was the coloratura at the Metropolitan Opera in New York for over 35 years, and she wasn't your typical opera star. She was beautiful, funny, thin. There was nothing of a diva about her. In fact, she was always available, and that's how she got her start. She was a nice Jewish girl from New York City, and she was supposed to star in The Magic Flute when she was 21. But when she was 20, the soprano for Don Giovanni took sick. And here's Rudolph Bing, the Mets general manager. He calls her up at 3 p.m. Says, hey, can you come and sing Don Giovanni for us tonight? Couldn't get a cab, so she took the subway down, and the rest was history. She made her name that night. And as I said, she went on to sing for the Metropolitan for 4 decades. But she also became a general star. She sang on television a lot. Ed Sullivan loved to have her on when he was promoting culture, and she was good friends with Jack Benny. And she did a hilarious turn on his program in 1962. And here you get a full measure of what kind of person Roberta Peters was.
The Jack Benny program with the special guest star, Roberta Peters.
Tonight, I really wanted to maintain some dignity, because I have as my guest star the very beautiful and talented leading coloratura soprano of the Metropolitan Opera, Miss Roberta Peters. Roberta, I can't tell you how proud I am that you are a guest of my type of a show, a comedy show.
Oh,
really.
thank you, Jack.
Forgetting about the Yorkshire, I must tell you again how much I appreciate you being on the show. I really do.
Oh, thank you, Jack. Thanks.
And you know, there's one thing that puzzles me, though.
What is it?
Well, when I asked you personally to appear on my show, you seemed to be happy to do it. And yet, when I spoke to your agent about it, he seemed to be reluctant.
Well, maybe he doesn't like the idea of my being on a show with a comedian. He feels that since I'm of the opera, I should maintain a certain dignity.
Well, I mean, I certainly approve of that. I think he's right. But then, don't forget, he probably doesn't know that I have been a student of the opera for many, many years. You know, I discuss it all the time. I mean, as a matter of fact, there's one thing about the opera I wanted to discuss with you.
What is it, Jeff?
Now, which male role do you think is the most important in opera? The role of Mario in La Boheme, or Rudolfo in La Tosca, or Gaudio in La Gioconda?
Well, Jack, I find it a little difficult to answer that question.
Why?
Well, in the first place, the role of Mario is not in La Boheme, it's in La Tosca. The part of Rodolfo is not in Tosca, it's in La Boheme. And Jack, the greatest male role in La Gioconda is Enzo.
Enzo? Well, how did I happen to think of Gaudio?
He's my agent.
I should have known that when he was screaming at me. But anyway, you know, one of the reasons that I've sort of gotten away from the opera is because, you know, I've gone into the concert field. I do 3 or 4 a year for benefits, you
really?
see.
Oh, I think that's wonderful, Jack. Whatever gave you the idea of playing your violin for charity?
For charity?
Yeah.
Well, I tried it the other way and nobody bought tickets. You know what? I can't understand how anyone who sings an opera, who looks, you know, to me, you're so slim and so charming and so beautiful and everything, and you look so good. And I always had a feeling that opera singers were like, well, I don't know how to describe it, but they always seemed to me like Don Wilson in a dress. Most of them do.
Jack, that isn't nice. Well, how would you like it if I started insulting other comedians?
Well, be my guest. Go ahead. I'm sure, Roberta, that the audience, they're waiting here to hear you sing. I know they're very anxious to hear you sing. So if you'd like, I'll announce your number.
Thank you, Jack.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Roberta Peters will now sing the Shadow Song from Dia Nora.
Hello, Rochester. Oh, boss, that was a good show.
You like it? Really?
Oh, that was class. Real class.
How about that Roberta Peters? I mean, the way she looks and sings and everything. Gee, that was sweet of Roberta Peters to give me one of her records. You know, I think she's kind of stuck on me, too. Yeah, I wish I were about 30 years younger. Come to think of it, I am. Now, once again, I'd like to present our guest star, Miss Roberta Peters. Thank you for giving such a wonderful performance.
Oh, thank you, Jack. I enjoyed it so much.
Did you?
Yes.
You know, I envy you to be able to sing like that. Gee, I wish I could sing as well as I play the violin. You know?
Well, I think you do.
Here she's singing what looks like some real fancy opera on television, except it's really a commercial for chock full of nuts coffee. Well, I'm going to close on that note. I want to thank my producer and IT genius, Sid Tepps. Roberta Peters was not only an opera star, she was a suburban homemaker and mother of 2, and she juggled those roles very successfully. If you listen to this program, you know I'm not a big opera buff, but I'm going to play one of my favorites. This is Roberta Peters as Cunigund with Glitter and Be Gay from Leonard Bernstein's Candide.
Pearls and ruby rings, how can worldly things take the place of honor lost? Can they compensate for my fallen state, purchased as they were at such an awful cost?